So recently, the Chase Sapphire Reserve got a massive update that's been covered all over the internet, which includes an increased annual fee and a bunch of controversial new credits. But alongside that update, Chase also quietly introduced some pretty notable changes that impact the younger sibling of this card as well, which is the $95 per year Sapphire Preferred. So in this video, I want to do a fully updated comparison of these two popular Chase credit cards and look at them side by side to hopefully tell you not only the differences in what you're getting with each one, but also my honest thoughts on which of these credit cards might be right for you or might be wrong for you after these recent updates. Now, as we go ahead and jump into the video here, just a quick reminder to go and subscribe down below if you haven't already, because we actually just passed 200,000 subscribers, and because of that, we're going to be doing a giveaway next month to celebrate. But with that said, let's start off this video by talking about two of the most important things to look at when deciding whether any premium travel credit card is going to be worth it for you, and that would be the annual fee versus the annual credits. Now, when we're looking at these two Sapphire cards after the recent updates, you're going to see there's a much bigger difference in how the fee versus the credits break down with each one. So the new Sapphire Reserve is going to be the more expensive option here with an increased annual fee of $795 per year, which is up from $550 previously. And then the Sapphire Preferred is going to come in at only $95 per year, which is where that annual fee has been for a while. Now, based on just those costs alone, the Sapphire Preferred obviously is going to sound like the better option at the lower price. However, if you fit the mold for what Chase thinks the new Sapphire Reserve cardholder should look like with their travel and lifestyle spending habits, then there actually is going to be a small chance that the value from the many credits on the Reserve could make that card the better choice here for your wallet compared to just the one credit on the Preferred. So on the Sapphire Preferred, that one credit is going to be in the form of $50 each account anniversary year that you get for hotel stays purchased through Chase Travel. And if you truly get the full value of that credit, then that should help to partially offset the $95 annual fee to feel effectively more like only $45 per year. But then over on the newly updated Sapphire Reserve, you're going to have a lot more credits here to look into and also keep track of if you want to fully or partially offset the $795 annual fee on this card. And these credits are going to consist of some that are annual, some that are semi-annual, and some that are monthly. For better or worse, the Sapphire Reserve is basically now like a coupon book, like a lot of other credit cards in the market. And because there's just so many credits here on the CSR, I'm going to list them off pretty quickly. That way we can get a sense of what we're dealing with. And then I'll go ahead and do a deeper dive with these credits in a separate video in the future. So first, we've got a $300 annual travel credit that applies to a wide variety of travel expenses and is super easy to use. And second, we've got a new $500 semi-annual credit for stays with the Edit, which is like Chase's handpicked collection of resorts and hotels that run on the more expensive side of things. That credit is split up into $250 from January through June, and then another $250 from July through December. So depending on how often you plan to stay at these properties within the Edit collection, this credit could be very valuable for chipping away at the annual fee, or it could be pretty terrible because these types of hotels are not really meant for the average person traveling on a budget. Then we've got a $300 semi-annual dining credit for restaurants that are a part of the Sapphire Reserve exclusive tables program, which again kind of leans towards being more of restaurants that are more expensive and higher end. And this one is going to be split up into $150 from January through June, and then another $150 from July through December. There's also $300 in semi-annual StubHub credits, again split up into $150 for the first 6 months of the year and $150 for the second 6 months. And then you also get what Chase says is up to $250 in value every year for complimentary Apple TV Plus and Apple Music subscriptions. After that, there's some more brands with credits going on throughout the year, like $120 for Lyft, which is broken up into $10 of monthly in-app credits. There's $120 for eligible Peloton memberships, which is also $10 per month. And then there's $120 in value for 12 months of DoorDash Dash Pass membership, along with $300 of monthly DoorDash promo credits. For those DoorDash promos, you get one $5 monthly promo to spend on restaurant orders and two $10 monthly promos to save on groceries, retail orders, and more. And one thing to note with a lot of the partner credits here is that a lot of these have varying expiration dates throughout 2027. So it's going to be important to note that partner benefits could change to other brands or get renewed in the future, just depending on what Chase wants to do. So yeah, as you can see, the new Sapphire Reserve has a ton of credits that you now have to keep track of and actually remember to use if you want to get the most out of the higher $795 annual fee. And a lot of these credits are sort of tailored to people who are likely higher than average spenders, like the one for the Edit and the one for dining with the Sapphire Reserve exclusive tables. In my opinion, when we're looking at these two Chase Sapphire cards side by side here for the annual fee versus annual credits part of this video, even if you can hypothetically get enough value from the many credits on the Sapphire Reserve within what you would consider your normal spending habits, I still don't think that necessarily means you should pick the Reserve over the Preferred. That's because for some people, I really think they're just going to value having simplicity over complexity. So if you want simple and low upfront costs, then go with the Sapphire Preferred. But if you don't mind complex with a high upfront cost, then go with the Sapphire Reserve. Again, as long as you just run your own numbers and you really understand what truly is going to give you value with all the credits there. Honestly, the good news with the addition of all these credits is that now technically there are more ways to fully offset the annual fee on the CSR. But the bad news is that now it is going to be sort of like a part-time job to manage using those credits. So my advice here is to understand what you're getting yourself into, understand what options you have in the future with downgrading this card in case you ever decide it's not worth it anymore, and also make sure you're factoring in what sort of welcome offer you're able to get on either Sapphire card here, which is what I want to talk about next in this video. Now, the truth is that almost any premium credit card is probably going to work out numbers-wise in the first year that you have it, thanks to a welcome offer. But when Chase made its recent changes to these two Sapphire products, they made some pretty big adjustments to how these bonuses are going to work and who's eligible. So in the past, the standard welcome offers that we would normally see on these cards were for around 60,000 ultimate rewards points after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. And then occasionally there would be some limited time elevated offers that were for a bit higher than that. However, as of the filming of this video in mid-July 2025, we're now seeing new offers on these cards. But I do want to point out that because welcome bonuses are always subject to change, the numbers that I'm going to show you here in this video next are going to be for example purposes only, and you should really always make sure you're finding and looking around for the best offers possible before you apply for any credit card. So right now, as of July 15th, 2025, we're seeing the Sapphire Preferred offer 75,000 points after $5,000 of spend in 3 months from account opening, which is going to be slightly up for both the amount of points and the minimum spend requirement. And then the Sapphire Reserve is running an offer of 100,000 points plus a $500 Chase travel promo credit, again after spending the same $5,000 in the first 3 months. I'm really interested to see if these offers are going to stay around for a while or if they come down at all, especially for the Sapphire Reserve, considering this offer is probably in an effort to hype up the relaunch of this card. But regardless of wherever the offers are at the time you're seeing this video, there's a few changes here you need to know about when it comes to who exactly is eligible, how many Sapphire cards you can have, and what the value of Chase points is now going to be due to some redemption features that got updated. So in terms of eligibility for the welcome offers on these Sapphire credit cards, Chase previously had 2 rules that really directed the way many people design their credit card roadmaps and strategies, and those were the 1 Sapphire rule along with the 48-month rule. The 1 Sapphire rule was pretty self-explanatory because, like the name said, customers used to be able to hold only 1 Sapphire card at a time, and then with the 48-month rule, what that said was that you were basically not eligible for a new Sapphire card bonus if you had received another Sapphire card bonus within the past 48 months. So what many people would do is they would basically get a Sapphire card bonus on either one of these cards, and then once they were past the 48-month mark from receiving that bonus, they would then do a product change or basically downgrade to a card with one of the no annual fee Freedom branded cards, and then after that, they would be eligible to get another Sapphire bonus. So that was pretty simple, and I was actually able to do that last year myself. However, now with these recent Sapphire card updates, both of these rules are gone, and they've been replaced with some new language that's much more vague about exactly who's going to be eligible for these welcome bonuses on these cards. So on both the Reserve and Preferred pages over on Chase's website, we can see this text here that says, this credit card is unavailable to you if you currently have one open. The new card member bonus may not be available to you if you currently have any other personal Sapphire cards open, previously held this card, or received a new card member bonus for this card, and we may also consider the number of cards you have opened and closed, as well as other factors in determining your bonus eligibility. So what this now reads like is sort of like once per lifetime language that we've seen from other credit card issuers, but there's also a lot of maybe language that's being used here, so I think we're going to sort of see a lot of uncertainty about who exactly is eligible for these bonuses moving forward, especially if you're someone who has received a bonus on one or both of these cards in the past. Now, I do want to lay out some general guidelines here based off what I've been seeing from data points online and my own research so far, but I want you to look at all this bonus eligibility stuff with the idea that your mileage may vary a lot here because it's still very early on since these updates have been put in place. So hopefully as time goes on, we'll start to get more clarity around how this eligibility works. Now, first of all, after these changes, you can now technically hold both of these Sapphire cards at the same time, even though that was not really possible previously for the most part because of that 1 Sapphire rule. But I will say that I don't really see any point in holding both these cards at the same time, so I wouldn't really recommend it. Also, according to a representative from Chase in an article on thepointsguy.com, even though you can have both the Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve, bonus eligibility for each card will be based on several factors, including previously earned bonus offers, the number of cards opened and closed, among other considerations. To me, based off that comment from Chase, along with the language that's found on Chase's website, I would say that if you've received a bonus on the Sapphire Preferred card in the past, then you may not be eligible to get another bonus on that card. And if you received a bonus on the Sapphire Reserve in the past, then you may also not be eligible for another bonus on that card either. I'm using the words may not here though, because again, it's pretty vague and open to interpretation as to what Chase will decide for whether or not you can get another bonus if you received one in the past. However, what you might still be able to do is get one bonus on each Sapphire card if you space them out and you don't have them at the same time. The good news though is that despite all this uncertainty around how eligibility is going to work for the bonuses on these cards based on your history with Chase, what they're doing now is they're giving people a pop-up message before someone actually applies and they run a hard credit pull. That way they can just tell you whether or not you're eligible for a bonus. I've seen some early reports that there were some issues that people ran into with this pop-up message, but I'm sure that Chase is going to figure things out as time goes on. So it is good to see that they're at least letting you know about your eligibility before applying, but yeah, your mileage may vary here with this welcome bonus stuff. So if you have any personal data points at all, then definitely go ahead and share them down below to help other people out. Now, that is going to bring me to the next major change that Chase has brought to both of these cards, and that is something called Points Boost, which is going to be something that now replaces the previously fixed redemption feature on the two Sapphire cards when booking travel through Chase. So the way that Chase previously had set it up with these cards was that if you wanted to book travel through the Chase portal, then you could do that at a fixed rate of 1.25 cents per point on the Sapphire Preferred or 1.5 cents per point on the Sapphire Reserve. And this used to work for any travel like flights or hotel stays that you wanted to book through Chase. So for example, a $300 flight might cost 30,000 points in other credit card issuer portals at a fixed rate of 1 cent per point, but that would only cost 24,000 points in Chase's portal at a rate of 1.25 cents per point with the CSP, or 20,000 points at a rate of 1.5 cents per point with the CSR. But what Chase decided to do now is change this and get rid of this fixed rate on all travel booked with these cards through the portal. And instead, now what they did is they replaced it with a similar feature that can get you up to 1.75 cents per point on the Preferred and up to 2 cents per point on the Reserve. But the catch is you can only get those rates on certain flights and certain hotel stays booked through Chase Travel, so not everything like before. You'll see these points boosts with this little rocket ship symbol when you run a search in Chase Travel. So those are going to be what you want to look out for when trying to find a good deal. And what you want to do here to calculate cent per point value is just take the cash price divided by the points price multiplied by 100 to see if you're getting a good cent per point value based on the Sapphire card you have. So far, as I've browsed around through this feature with my Sapphire Reserve, I've actually been pretty impressed with what I've been able to see from hotel searches. So you're going to get a good redemption rate on hotels that are high-end properties in the Edit collection from Chase, like this Four Seasons hotel in Philly, which is what I expected. But I'm also actually finding great deals on plenty of more budget-friendly hotels with Points Boost up to 2 cents per point as well. For flights, on the other hand, right now Points Boosts are only available from select airlines like Air Canada, Emirates, and United, to name a few. And United is going to be really the only option to get Points Boost on domestic airlines. So for the average person here looking to travel in the US, you are going to be pretty limited for now. Based on some of my initial searches, you're also probably going to find better Points Boost availability on premium economy, business, and first class fares, and not as much for economy flights. So this could change in the future, but here's a few thoughts that I have so far on the Points Boost feature. Number one, these changes now sort of make me look at booking travel with Chase with these Points Boost almost like I'm searching for award availability when I'm transferring points, because there's only going to be certain flights and certain hotel stays where I could get a good redemption value. But the benefit here is that for the average person, redeeming points with these boosts is going to be a much more straightforward and easier thing to do than transferring. However, one of the main downsides and concerns that I have with this is that I'm assuming that Chase can essentially just add and then take away good valuable points boosts whenever they want to. So right now I'm actually a bit more impressed than what I expected to be for seeing a lot of value, especially for hotel searches in cities where there's a lot of options to choose from with boosts. But I could also see Chase nerfing this availability over time when it's convenient for them. Number two, transferring points is still going to be an option and remains unchanged here, which to me is a great thing because that's how I prefer to redeem my points anyway. However, now that Points Boost are offering me a potentially more competitive 2 cent per point rate on certain flights and certain hotel stays with my Sapphire Reserve, I'm actually finding this feature to be more valuable than the previous 1.5 cent per point fixed rate, which I rarely used. What I'll probably do is I'll still prefer to redeem my points by transferring them, including transferring them over to Hyatt, which is how I just prefer to do that. But now I know that I have in my back pocket some potential 2 cent per point options for hotel stays booked through Chase, and that kind of becomes my new true floor value of my points, where I definitely will not redeem for anything below 2 cents per point because I know that I can get that in the portal now. Again, for the Preferred, it looks like now you can get up to 1.75 cents per point through Chase Travel with Points Boost, but select hotels are going to be up to 1.5 cents per point. So those are both an improvement over the previous 1.25 cents per point flat rate on the preferred, as long as there is decent availability for these boosts when you're running a search. However, the third thing to consider here is that you always have to compare the prices in Chase Travel with the prices outside of this portal. And that's because sometimes travel portal prices can be a bit inflated compared to booking directly or with another website. So when you're calculating your cent per point value, make sure you go ahead and factor that in. And then the fourth thing to consider here is that if you were an existing Sapphire card holder like myself, meaning that you applied for either one of these Sapphire cards before June 23rd, 2025, then you actually are going to get access to both this new points boost feature as well as the previous Chase Travel redemption rates for a limited time. The way this is going to work for existing cardholders who applied before June 23rd when these changes went into effect is that for any Chase points earned prior to October 26, 2025 and redeemed until October 26, 2027, you're going to have the option to continue getting 1.5 cents per point on the reserve or 1.25 cents per point on the preferred up until the end of that time frame. Or if there's a better deal with points boost, then you could take advantage of that as well. For anyone who applied on or after June 23rd, 2025 though, you're only gonna have the new points boost feature to get elevated value when redeeming through Chase Travel. And then anything outside of points boost, you're only gonna get 1 cent per point in value, regardless of which Sapphire card you have. Again, unless you're transferring your points where you can get above that value, because that's still unchanged. So in my opinion, honestly, this is kind of a low-key win for existing Sapphire cardholders who are gonna essentially be grandfathered into this new points boost feature for a limited time of a little bit over 2 years. But as time goes on, we're gonna have to really see just how good points boost is gonna be and if it gets devalued or less useful. Now, outside of that, the only other major changes to these cards involves the points multipliers on the reserve. So here's a side-by-side view at how you can earn points on both these Sapphire cards. The Sapphire Preferred earns 5x points on travel booked through Chase, excluding when that $50 travel credit is used. You get 2x on other travel, 3x on dining, 3x for online groceries, excluding Target, Walmart, and wholesale clubs, 3x on select streaming, and then 1x on everything else. Each account anniversary, you also get bonus points equal to 10% of your total purchases made the previous year. However, a lot of people think this feature is a lot more valuable than it actually is, but Chase gives us an example here where if you spend $25,000 on purchases, you're gonna get 2,500 bonus points. 2,500 bonus points redeemed at a minimum of 1 cent per point in value is just $25. So doing the math there, $25 as a return for $25,000 of spending is only 0.1%, which is better than nothing, but also nothing to get excited about. Then for the Sapphire Reserve card, you're gonna be able to earn 8x on all purchases through Chase Travel, including the edit, 4x on flights and hotels booked directly, 3x on dining worldwide, and 1x on everything else. The big changes here compared to the older version of the Reserve is that travel booked through Chase is now updated to be a flat 8x across the board. And then now there's also going to be no longer a 3x on all travel category because that's been replaced with 4x on flights and hotel stays booked directly. Now, to me, the Sapphire Reserve is still going to be the winner here with the better multipliers, even after the disappearance of the 3x on all other travel category, which I do view as a negative for most people. However, I would really look at the value that you're going to be getting from the credits and the welcome bonus on the Reserve first when deciding if that card is going to be a good fit for you. After those things are considered, then you can go ahead and start plugging in your spending numbers to see exactly how much value you might be able to get from some of these multipliers. And then I would also think about the value from some of the other features you get on the Reserve card when trying to pick which Sapphire card is the best fit for you. For example, airport lounge access is going to be the big feature here that you get on the CSR, where you're going to have access for yourself and up to 2 free guests for Chase Sapphire lounges across the country, which honestly are some of my favorite lounges from any credit card issuer right now. Plus, you also get complimentary Priority Pass Select membership that gets you into Priority Pass lounges with up to 2 free guests as well. On top of that, you also get a fee credit of up to $120 every 4 years for global entry, TSA PreCheck, or Nexus if you don't have any of those services already. And then additionally, the Sapphire Reserve now gets you IHG1 Rewards Platinum Elite status through December 31st of 2027. Now, when it comes to travel protections and purchase coverages, the Chase Sapphire Reserve is also going to be the better choice here compared to the Sapphire Preferred for this comparison. And all this insurance stuff can get really detailed, so I'm just going to go through a few things here at a very high level, but as always, if you want to learn more about this stuff, then I definitely recommend going out and doing your own research as well. So for trip cancellation and interruption insurance, both Sapphire cards are going to offer similar coverage if your trip is canceled or cut short by sickness, severe weather, or other covered situations. And the same goes for baggage delay insurance and lost luggage reimbursement, where you're going to be getting similar benefits on each card. For auto rental coverage, you're getting primary coverage on both cards when you decline the rental car company's collision insurance and then charge the entire rental cost to your card, but the limits are slightly higher on the Sapphire Reserve. And again, there's always going to be fine print to look into, so make sure you go ahead and understand what's actually covered here before before this benefit gets used. There's also travel accident insurance on each card with limits that are higher on the Sapphire Reserve. And then two big benefits that you get with the Reserve but not the Preferred are emergency evacuation and transportation coverage and emergency medical and dental coverage. So even though you hope to never actually use those things, it can be good to have that peace of mind, so people do place some value on this stuff when paying the higher annual fee on the CSR. For purchase protection, again, this is going to be something that's nice to have in the back of your mind whenever you go out and buy something expensive. And the Sapphire Reserve definitely does have the better coverage here as well, where you're going to be covered for eligible new purchases for 120 days from the date of purchase against damage or theft up to $10,000 per item, whereas the Sapphire Preferred card covers you for only up to $500 per item. Again, there's a ton of different details that I'm not going into here when it comes to travel and purchase protections, so go out and do your own research, but that is going to lead me into which Sapphire card is right for you and my honest thoughts on how these two travel credit cards are going to stack up against each other after these recent updates. Now, in terms of which one is going to be right for you, obviously you just got to decide that for yourself based on your own spending habits and what kind of value the features and benefits of each card might give you. But for the sake of making things kind of easy here, here's a few generalizations that might help guide you. So like I said before, I think that if you want simplicity, or maybe if you're just a beginner in the whole credit card game, then by far your best bet is going to be the Sapphire Preferred card with its low annual fee and one single credit to keep track of. You're still going to get very good value and the ability to actually combine the points earned from other Chase cards like the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited as well. And then in the future, as long as you're eligible, what you could do is you could always try to switch over to the Reserve if you eventually think that's a better fit somehow. As for who should get the Sapphire Reserve, I would say this is going to be a credit card that's more for people who truly are frequent travelers, those who get good value from all the credits and who can also actually keep track of them, those who have Sapphire lounges in airports that they know they're going to travel through a lot each year, and also those who might spend a bit higher than the average person, or maybe even a mixture of all those different factors. Now, even if you do seem to fit the mold of who Chase wants to have this card, even then, I would still say it might be too much hassle to truly say the CSR is worth it anymore. But the fact is, there is going to be a lot of value on the table here if you're willing to put in the work to justify this super high annual fee. Or you know what? Maybe you just actually decide to avoid Chase altogether for the long term, because for some people, there are going to be better and even cheaper setups out there. But at the very least, I would still recommend you go and test drive the Sapphire Preferred for at least a year, go out and take advantage of the nice sign-up bonus it has, and basically make Chase win you over as a customer, because that's their job. If Chase does a bad job at winning over or even keeping customers, and then everyone starts to leave to go over to Amex, Capital One, or Citi, then maybe at that point we'll start to see some changes that people actually like instead of these controversial changes. So I'm gonna leave you with this. Remember, the competition is a good thing, and even though you might be frustrated right now by what the Sapphire Reserve now looks like, what that might do is actually encourage other issuers out there to kind of step up and then swoop in to win over Chase customers. But let me know what you think about these two Sapphire credit cards and which one is going to be the better option now, because I'm predicting that like 90% of the comments here are going to say the Preferred is the better option now. And also, if you're like me and you're thinking that so many of these credit cards seem to be getting devalued and kind of worse nowadays, then make sure to go ahead and check out this video over here next, where I explain why it feels that way. But as always, thanks so much for watching.